short form video and TikTok is entertainment, but at the end of the day, like if you have a question, you want to learn about something and you decide that short form video is the way you want to learn about it, you're learning about it in like 15 to 30-second bursts. And you're learning about it with audio, you're learning about it with video, you're learning about it with emotion. And so the reason, like taking it to the next step, the reason I was like so floored by that, and it's literally been on my mind every day since, is because for the wedding industry, brides make decisions on emotion. Couples make decisions on emotion. How does this particular planner make me feel? Do I relate to this person? Do they look like me? Do they talk like me? Do they act like me? Right? And so when you are in that growth phase of your business and you spend some money on advertising, if you're not using short form video in your advertising, you are probably not using your money to the best of your ability, because short form video is here, it's here to stay, and you can do so many things by putting yourself out there and sharing who you are.
Hey everybody, this is Eddie Babbage, founder, CEO of Timeline Genius, your host here of the Wedding Industry Insider Podcast. I am here with my esteemed colleague, Mark Chapman. Mark is the president of the WII Society, and he is a recognized pro when it comes to advertising for wedding professionals. Mark, this is your second time on the show, and I want to say thank you again for taking time out to do this interview.
I'm so glad to be here, Eddie. You deliver so much good content to your audience, and I really appreciate having me back. There's so much that's changing in the world of advertising, and I'm always delighted to share and help people do better with their ads.
Awesome. Well, I told you this in the pre-interview, and I'll say it here just to kind of let everybody know if they haven't heard of you, if they didn't hear the last podcast episode that we did, they are in for a treat. I told you, and we know some of the same people in this industry, folks like Taylor Cusick Holman and Shannon Tarrant, just names that they've been on this show as well. And everybody just speaks so highly of you. And yeah, as we all know, marketing, advertising, these are vitally important aspects of business. And I don't think there's anybody better to come on today and to speak to some of the seismic changes that are happening in the world of online advertising for our industry. So that's what we're
Thank
going to
you.
get into. There's a lot of change, and I think I'd like to have you demystify the changes, and speak to that. But before we do, Mark, for those that don't know you, would you mind just giving a little bit more information about your background and how you
Yep.
got to be where you currently are in the industry?
Definitely. Super quick story. And thank you so much for those kind words. I appreciate that
Mm-hmm.
a ton. Super quick story. A long time ago, I was a wedding photographer and I started using Google Ads to get leads for my own photography studio. And I had been doing like Chamber of Commerce, BNI, and networking, all the networking in person, and also like photographing weddings on the weekends. And it was just 7 days a week and so crazy. And someone in the Chamber of Commerce this long time ago was like, hey, when I use Google Ads, I turn the Google Ads on and my phone rings, and I turn them off and my phone doesn't ring. And I was like, that's a bunch of baloney. I didn't really trust her. But I actually studied Google Ads, and then Facebook ads came around. And I got really into advertising for our own photography business, and it worked. And it delivered me the leads that I needed and the quality leads that I needed so that I didn't have to do the 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And I became really, really passionate about advertising. Other people started asking for help. It turned into a company, which is now called the WII Society. And it turned into my career passion of helping businesses in the wedding industry do great with advertising and get quality leads from advertising. It's a really scary space. It can be really expensive and frustrating. And I have mastered that craft. I have a team of 8. We've got an incredible team. So putting the wedding industry with advertising is my little career passion, and that's what I do. That's what I do.
I love it, Mark. It's funny. Little backstory about me. I have always been fascinated by entrepreneurship. I've been a student of business and entrepreneurship. And back in the day, like if you took a time machine back to my law school days when I'm cross-registering at B school and all this stuff, I was always like, it's finance. Like that's the part of this that is like the hard skill set, finance, accounting, numbers, things. I was
Right.
like marketing, advertising. It's just, but boy, over the last couple decades, as I've been, an entrepreneur and founded 3 businesses, have my eyes been like that Stanley Kubrick Clockwork Orange, little Alex eyebrows, like propped open, like wide open to the fact
Yeah.
that advertising is just critical. And yeah, go ahead. What were you going to
You know,
say there?
it's critical, and I think there's a point when advertising becomes important. And for those of us who start our business and we maybe want a lifestyle business and we don't want to go full on with it. We've got kids, we've got other things going on. Advertising may not be the right fit for everyone. And I want to acknowledge that because it's
Hmm.
in the wedding industry, there's a lot of folks doing lifestyle businesses, and that's awesome. If you want to grow your business and you want to spend less time or like not work as hard, you have to figure out how to get there without doing that, and you have to exchange money for that. So that's where advertising comes in, right? So
Yeah.
it may not be for everyone, but for those people who want to grow beyond their organic reach, grow beyond their referrals, and referrals are amazing and incredible, and organic reach is amazing and incredible. But sometimes we reach this point in our business where we're like, you know what, I don't have any more time to network, I don't have any more time to nurture those relationships, but I do want to grow my business. And that's when advertising comes in. You know what? I'm going to start reaching people. I'm going to start paying to reach people. And so it's not a bad thing. It's not an evil thing. It's just the thing that the point that some people get to in order to grow.
I love that, Mark. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. It's not a bad thing. It's not an evil thing. I feel like sales, marketing, advertising, all of it can kind of get a bad rap. We can almost kind of feel like, oh gosh, like it's great if people refer me, just word of mouth marketing, great. That's my reputation speaking for itself, but I don't want to be out there like pushing myself. It makes me
Yeah.
feel like I'm bragging on myself. And I mean, I'm sympathetic. Like, it doesn't feel good sometimes to kind of, because that's deprecated in our society. You want to be that person that's standing up like, come buy from me, I'm the best, I can help. Like, what do you say to people kind of
Yeah.
in terms of mindset if they actually have a business that is ready for advertising, but they're maybe being held back a little by the invisible force of their sort of mindset and beliefs?
I can understand exactly what you're sharing because sort of in this world of like short form video and TikTok, and there's people who like love putting their face on TikTok, and like 90% of the people don't want to talk about themselves or put themselves out there. And so in the world of
Yeah,
advertising, it can feel uncomfortable to like be self promoting. Um, at the end of the day, no one is going to do a better job to tell people how great you are than yourself, and
yeah.
you got to get over it. I think it's an entrepreneurial growth step where you realize, hey, I'm really good at this. I've done this for 10 years. I've been through all the situations, and no one's going to communicate that as well as you. And
Yeah.
so get over it, move forward, learn how to be you can still be humble in your communication, and you can say, hey, this is what I've accomplished and this is what I've done. And you know what? I've learned my lesson. I've done wrong things. I've made mistakes, but here's where we're at now. And this is why I'm a great fit to help you with your wedding.
I love that, Mark. Well, let's there's so many things here that I can talk about to just reach inside that brain of yours and keep pulling out the gold nuggets
Yeah.
for our audience. But um, let's go ahead and get into the main topic at hand, which is there's a lot of change that's happening in the world of advertising. And let's just kick things off. Like, what I want to do, like with our podcast, just in general, I want people in our industry who listen to our podcast to get the heads up about important changes in the business
Yep.
landscape. So, what is one of the changes that you see that our audience really should know about?
A couple months ago, I heard someone say something and my jaw dropped to the floor. And what she said was, let me TikTok that. And what she meant by that was, I'm going to go to TikTok to find out more information about this discussion that we were having. And it was about something in the wedding industry. And at that moment I realized, wow. And the person who said this was really like the a lot of our ideal brides. She's the right age, right
Yeah,
demographics, all that sort of thing. And when she said that, I was like, "Oh shoot." Like the way that brides and couples are searching is changing. I'm going to
wow,
preface this by saying, based on data, and we have a ton of data at the I Do Society, all we do is look at data. Google is still the major search platform for sure.
sure.
But when it comes to finding more detailed information and getting a little bit deeper in, TikTok is becoming, and short form video is becoming a way that brides and couples are searching now. And it gives them really incredibly detailed, emotional answers to their questions when they watch a
Hmm,
short form video
hmm,
versus a text ad on Google that's like, it's got a headline, it's got some descriptions, maybe they clicked a phone number. So
Yeah.
again, Google is still the main search engine. It's still very, very powerful. But that statement shocked me. And I think that, I think we can deduce where I'm going to go with this, where our conversation can go with this is like, wow, it's changing. How people search and look for information is changing.
Well, it's on that same note. I mean, my hamster's turning. There are just a lot of implications. I agree. I think that's a profound. I'm sure she didn't necessarily mean to make a profound statement, but there are profound
Literally
implications.
just conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, one thing that's recently also, and I love your thoughts on it, is like the idea of YouTube as well. I have a
Yeah.
friend, a buddy of mine, my roommate from college, and he said, Ed, they are feasting on our brains because he just gets locked into these short form videos, and he's like, I'll
Yeah.
look up 15 minutes later. I mean, this guy's got like a corporate law job that he should be dialed in doing like $1 billion tax deals, and he's sitting here can't stop scrolling
Addicted.
on
Totally addicted. I
on like
know.
these short. So that tells us something. What are the implications here? Maybe not just for TikTok, but also Instagram and the video on YouTube, which is also
Yeah.
ironically a large search engine, right?
Right. And actually Google owns YouTube, so
Right. Okay, so you're
it's a
jumping
whole
in. Okay, got
conversation where it's
sure,
like you can
gotcha.
advertise through on YouTube through Google.
Okay,
Yeah, I think the implications are that I want to use the phrase micro learning. I think people are really into like micro learning where they're not like short form video and TikTok is entertainment, but at the end of the day, like if you have a question you want to learn about something and you decide that short form video is the way you want to learn about it, you're
yeah,
learning about it in like 15 to 30-second bursts,
yeah,
and you're
yeah,
learning about it with audio, you're learning about it with video, you're learning
yeah.
about it with emotion. And so the reason, like taking it to the next step, the reason I was like so floored by that, and it's literally been on my mind every day since, is because for the wedding industry, brides make decisions on emotion. Couples make decisions on emotion.
Yeah,
How does this particular planner make me feel? Do
yeah,
I relate to this person? Do they look like me? Do they talk like me? Do they act like me? Right. And so when you are in that growth phase of your business and you spend some money on advertising, if you're not using short form video in your advertising, you are probably not using your money to the best of your
wow,
ability, because short form video is here, it's here to stay, and you
yeah.
can do so many things by putting yourself out there and sharing who you are.
That makes so much sense, Mark. I mean, I will show my age here, but I just remember, heck, I remember when the internet first got going commercially, right? And the first wave was like banner ads everywhere, remember? And then everybody was
So
like, you
annoying.
just became completely desensitized to banners.
Yeah.
And then I remember when Google like rolled out the pay-per-click model and people were like, this is genius. Wow, they found a way to actually monetize like the search engine in just this genius way. But yeah, just kind of looking at the through line of evolution here,
Yeah.
how much more powerful is a 30-second video in comparison to the standard little old school, AdSense ad that has a headline and a little subheader
Right.
over video? My energy can come through. It's not as good as being in person, but it's
Yep.
way light years beyond. Like people can feel the energy, they can feel the wedding pros enthusiasm. I guess my next question mark is, so this change is here. What do people do with this change?
mm, I think it actually kind of loops back to what we talked to in the beginning about being comfortable with communicating your value and communicating who you are and how great you
Yeah,
are, and
yeah,
learning how to do that in your own way. um, there's so many examples. I'm going to actually give some examples of short form videos for people who are listening who are like, hey, you know what? I'm interested in spending a couple dollars a day in short form video to promote myself, but I don't
yeah,
know what to say. So here are some great examples. Um, Behind the scenes, or show how it's done. How do you solve a particular problem at a wedding? There
yeah,
could be thousands of this, but if you show people how you solve problem and your process for problem solving, or behind the scenes and how it's done, not only are they hearing you, seeing you, but they are learning to trust you immediately, because they're like, oh, this person is an expert because she or he or they know how to solve this problem,
yeah,
and they're proving it to me in 15 seconds. Like,
yeah,
you might say, hey, you're planning your wedding and you don't know this, but this is something that you're going to face, and here's how to walk through that process, or here's how to overcome that. I mean, I could like go on for like 1,000 examples, but I think we get the idea, right? Is like, you don't have to say I'm amazing and kind of beat your chest. You can say that you're amazing by teaching people how you work in short form video, 15 to 30 seconds. It's brilliant.
And
One
which platform or platforms would you counsel people to take advantage of?
You know, one cool thing about short form video is you can create it and you can put it on all the platforms. I know that a lot of people are overwhelmed by like just being up to date on Instagram and posting to Instagram enough is
Right.
like overwhelming
Right.
for a lot of people. So with TikTok, you can literally create that short form video and post it on Instagram and literally like put it into TikTok. You don't have to create anything new on TikTok. And since we're talking about advertising, I actually want to share this. This is pretty important for folks to know. Advertising on TikTok is incredibly easy. If you decide you want to spend some money on it, TikTok says, "Hey, you know what? Um, I should actually say this. Like advertising on Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, is incredibly complex. There's like a million buttons to choose, and if you don't know what you're doing, you could lose a
And
little
it
bit of money or
changes all the
it changes
time.
all the time."
Right.
TikTok was like, you know what? We're gonna watch what Meta did, and we're gonna take away all the bad stuff and take the good stuff, and we're gonna
Nice.
condense it. So it's
Okay.
incredibly simple.
Okay.
You also don't have to have a social account on TikTok if you don't want to advertise. They're like, we'll take your money, no
Okay.
problem. Just sign up for the ads account, put your little video in here, choose your audience, and there you go. So, the content of the short form video is important, but also knowing that like if you decide you want to reach couples or reach brides through TikTok, it's so much easier than the confusing situation that's at Meta right now.
Okay, that's really interesting. So I would, well, so how would I know if it's working, Mark? Do I set up a, not to get too down in the weeds, because I'm mindful of the constraints of just like
Yep,
a 60-minute interview here, but I can start creating video content, but how do I necessarily know if it's working?
great question. When you use video to advertise on Meta or TikTok, it's not likely that you're going to have this perfectly linear situation where someone who doesn't know anything about you
Yeah,
watches your video, clicks on it, visits your website, and fills out your contact form. It's just
yeah,
not how brides shop. Um,
right,
so one way that we know it works is when you have specific content in your video, you teach something specific, and you're listening when people do reach out to you and they say, hey, you know what? I remember I saw you somewhere, or you were teaching something about this, and I remember it, and they're giving you verbal feedback about how
yeah,
it's working.
yeah,
So that truly is the best way because not only are you hearing what was memorable to them, but you're
right,
also connecting the dots back. Because that bride's search and that bride's journey to figuring out if you're the right fit for her, it doesn't involve just watching the video and the filling out your form. She's going to watch the video. She's going to go to your Instagram profile. She's going to read your reviews on Google if you have them. She's going to go to your website. She's going to leave. She got something else to do. She's going to come back through your Instagram profile again. It is a mess and it is not perfectly linear. So unfortunately, in today's world, with in the wedding industry, it's not like e-commerce where you're selling a $15 dog leash
right,
where you
right,
like they click they want it, it's $15.
right,
It isn't like that, unfortunately. But
right.
there are ways to know that it works.
Yeah, yeah. Just I can't get over just this really simple but powerful idea that video is such a rich medium, and I've seen the history, like the development of this stuff, and like, I mean, it sounds like a simple point, but when we had flip phones, or even first gen, the first couple generation iPhones, it was just a lot more difficult to record video. Like
Yeah.
now, I mean, again, I know it's just kind of, well, this has been the case, duh, for years, Eddie, but like, it's so easy to whip out your phone, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but like, you don't have to do glamorous. I wouldn't want this to stop anybody unless you tell me it should. It doesn't have to be like perfect lighting, glamorous, like informal is fine, right?
Yeah, I mean anyone who looks at reels or TikTok videos, like people do it in their car. And the the point is delivering really good content. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't want to be like in the dark or look creepy or anything, but like at the end of the day, like put yourself in front of a window in your house and like put your phone on a little stand, hit the record button. There you go.
And are there tools now that let you publish simultaneously to different platforms?
Oh, you know what? I'm sure there are. And because in our world we actually we publish them to the platforms like individually because we're creating ads for people. So I
Right,
apologize. I
right.
don't know the best tools for that, but I'm
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
absolutely sure there's some tool that's like Hootsuite or something like that, where it's
Okay,
like you create it once and it goes out into the different
okay.
places. Yeah,
So I'm gonna jump around here a little, and I know there's a lot here to that you probably still have to talk about. We're gonna come
we're
back to. I
good.
can't
Let's
resist
jump.
asking. I feel like Mark, I'm at the intersection of tech and the wedding industry, and I am watching this, just like watching this AI wave
Yeah,
crash into society, and it feels like 1994, 95, 6 all over again. And I know there's often like we can be prone to like grandiose, like crazy statements, but I really feel like as I use, ChatGPT and its brethren, like
yeah,
this is just possibly the most profound and amazing technology we've seen in our lifetime.
yep.
And we're looking at an early stage version of it, just like in 95 when you went online, you had the old modem, like
Yeah,
the
beautiful.
page would like take 30 seconds to scroll, and
Yeah,
God forbid there was any heavy file on the page. I'm aware that, like, we're in the early stages here, but I think there's a transformation coming, and the implications and magnitude of the transformation seem
yep,
staggering to me.
yep.
I'd love to hear your thoughts looking at this through the lens of an advertising expert. Like, what do you see as the consequences and impact of AI?
There's two main consequences of AI in advertising. The first one is creating content for advertising. AI shouldn't, we're not ready to use AI to create videos and photos of ourselves to promote in the wedding industry. We can and should be using AI to create the text, the copy, the words of our
Yeah,
ads.
yeah,
AI can do an incredible job to like give it your website, distill your business down into the most important thing that people should read about you, and ad copy. Do that all day long. It saves you
right,
so much time and so much headache.
for sure.
Creating images and videos, not quite there yet. I was playing around with this like app called Captions where you can like create an AI version of yourself and
Oh,
then like
that's, yeah,
type the, yeah. It was super cool, but like it really was distracting because my mouth
a
wasn't
little
moving
scary.
correctly. It's super scary. I
Yeah,
think down the road that may actually be a really viable tool for people who like don't want to actually get made up and dressed up on camera. Like you have an AI self and you tell it what to say and it says it. Not quite there yet. It still looks a little fake.
right.
The second implication of AI is how the advertising platforms use AI to know where and when to show your ads. So Google ads, Meta ads, TikTok ads, they all use
Mm,
AI in their platforms to determine who
wow.
the right person for this ad is. Right now, Eddie, we are at a place where it's helpful but not great. If you're paying for ads and you say, "Hey Google, just use your AI and find and show my ads to the right people," you will lose your money. Same thing with Meta and TikTok. However, if you create a blend of AI and giving Google, Meta, TikTok a really detailed audience of who your ideal bride is. Where does she live? What's her income range? What words is she interested in on Google and searching on Google? Or is she on Meta and TikTok? It's a little bit more like social. Is she a dog person? Is she a cat person? When you feed the AI very detailed information about who your ideal bride is, you can use the AI well to have that system show your ads to the right people. But you must learn the system and do it. If you're just puking it out there, you're going to lose your money. You're going to be like, advertising doesn't work, Meta's a scam, blah blah blah. And it's because these AI platforms and so the AI systems, they're called bidding algorithms, are built for like Target and Starbucks and people with $1,000 a day, but you've got $5 a day, so it cannot take the data at scale and put it to use for you without you giving a serious control over it. I hope that wasn't too much in the weeds.
No, 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 it's not. I want to circle back to one point that you stated, which is um, the idea, the very, I think, pretty obvious idea to use AI to generate copy
Yeah.
for advertising. And, what I'm seeing is a world where somebody might even go as far as to, like, I did this just for experimentation for Timeline Genius. You create a new GPT in
Yes.
ChatGPT and you give it a document that explains who your target, your avatar is. you feed it some of the past copy that you've written,
Yes.
maybe that you really like. You train it on your voice, and then you have this like trained version of AI that can generate
Yes.
copy. My question for you, Mark, is even with that, do you think that our wedding pros can just kind of take that copy and go with it? Or does there need to be this intermediary step where the AI generates the
Oh
copy
yeah.
and they review it and fine tune it? Like, what are
Yeah,
your
yeah,
thoughts?
you do definitely got to edit it for
Okay,
sure. For
okay,
sure,
yeah,
for
okay.
sure.
I thought so. I just want to make sure. Okay,
Yeah, and some of the value in using AI to create copy is like it is condensing things like you're saying, you create a GPT, you put information in and it gives you copy, add copy as a result. One of the cool things about it is like it creates like spacing in between the concepts in your sentences.
yeah,
It puts
yeah,
emoji in there.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it really does a good job at those sort of things, and it
Yeah,
also
it does.
does take what you're communicating and put it into words that make sense. But as we all know, it's not a human and you do
That's
have
right.
your own voice. And so
That's
what
right.
we do is we find ourselves like editing it just a little bit. And like the more we teach the GPT like
Yeah.
what to do, the easier it gets, but it does take a little bit of editing.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's almost like this kind of hybrid. It's the same thing with my programmers, right? Like if you're programming today, you're using AI, but it's not just giving you all the code for a sophisticated
Yeah.
application like Tomology is. It can help you, but you still need that human to kind of oversee and manage it.
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
couldn't resist asking about AI, and we could talk about that for ages, the implications of it. But what other changes are kind of top of mind for you, Mark, that again we feel like our audience should be in the loop on?
Yep. I wanted to share something I learned on a different podcast, Becca Pountney's podcast. She introduced this idea of a marketing theme park. And when I heard this a couple of weeks ago, I was like, wow, like this so applies to advertising and anyone who's paying for advertising or thinking about advertising. And the concept is this, and this is totally Becca's concept, so I'm just paraphrasing it, but it is so applicable to our conversation because in today's world, couples, brides, when they start their journey of planning their wedding, it's not like there's these linear funnels anymore. Like if you can visualize, if you're listening to this and not looking at it, there used to be these funnels where it's like there was a discovery phase, there was a consideration phase, there was an action
Right.
phase. It's literally not like that anymore. It's like she described it as like walking into a theme park and like some people want to go to the roller coaster, some people want to go to the fried dough, or like so it is no longer this like perfectly linear funnel when it
Hmm.
comes to marketing and advertising. It is this journey that people take and it's super fragmented and they go all over the place. And some people like want to buy the fast pass ticket and some people are like, it's okay, I'll wait in line. So hopefully that concept is coming through where if you are advertising and you're paying a little bit of money or you're planning on advertising, it's really important to know that the journey is not like it was. And being present in multiple places, multiple times, is the way to ensure that your ideal bride finds you and sees you consistently over and over so that when she's ready to make that decision, she knows who to call.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Mark. And why? What's kind of driven that change? Because part of me almost thinks sometimes we have these mental models. Like everybody has the model of like the
Mm.
atom that is like the orbital kind of model. You've got your nucleus and then
Hmm.
like, but we don't think about it, but like that's exactly what comes to mind when we think of atom. And you're exactly right. When we think of, marketing, we have that cone in mind,
Hmm.
but I
Hmm.
almost started wondering as you were talking, how long has it actually been like that still? Like, because we've had these, like, so for you, what's driving this shift where you see that now we're in this different paradigm? That the old model 15 years ago was the cone, and today
Yeah.
is it just the proliferation of platforms and videos? Like, what's driving this change?
I think that post pandemic, the pandemic screwed everything up in some
Yeah,
good ways, in some bad ways. The pandemic screwed everything up and it changed a lot of things in the wedding industry. And it along the same timeline, like more platforms were becoming more popular. TikTok was becoming more popular. YouTube Shorts was becoming more popular. It wasn't just Google searches anymore. People looking for local businesses. Facebook has been dying over the last 5 years, and Instagram is a lot. Obviously, is like the place where brides and couples are in a certain
hmm,
age range. So, um, the changes have been more platforms, more places on people's devices for them to get entertainment or get information. It's not
Hmm.
like it used to be where it was just Google, and then Facebook came along. It was like just Google and just Facebook. So it isn't like that anymore. Also, I think that there are, at the point of like when we're talking right now at this point in time, there's economic things happening. People are worried. There's a wherever you stand on politics, and we're not going to go there, but like it's an interesting time where I think people are slowing down and pausing and figuring out, not sure what's next.
Yeah.
And that is elongating people's discovery phases of their decision making and what they want to do, who they're
Yeah.
hiring. Are they willing to write a check right now? Like, not so much.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of external variables that are forcing the world of advertising to, in the wedding industry, to be a place where you must be found in multiple places multiple times. If you're not, people may click on your ad and see you, go to your website, but if they don't see you again and again and again, they're going to find someone else. They're going to go somewhere else.
As a wedding planner, you know how important it is to create detailed wedding day timelines for your events. But creating your timelines can be a tedious and time-consuming job. Until now. Because Timeline Genius lets you create beautiful, detailed wedding day timelines with ease. And it keeps everything you need on the wedding day in one central place. Here's how it works. First, Timeline Genius saves all your clients, vendors, and venues in your Rolodex, so you don't lose time looking for their information. And when you're ready to create a new timeline, you simply enter the key information for your wedding. Click a button, and voila! Timeline Genius magically gives you a customized timeline for your event, where all the details are laid out and the times are calculated for you. From there, you can easily edit your timeline by adding or deleting items, inserting images, changing font styles, and customizing everything to your liking. You can also instantly shift the times for as many items as you want. And when it comes to your clients and vendors, Timeline Genius lets you give them the highest level of service. You can send them tailored timelines, showing only the items they're involved in. And you can collaborate by inviting them to a mobile-friendly, web-based version of the timeline. You can even set text message reminders to automatically go out on the wedding day. And once you've completed your perfect timeline, you can download it or email it out as a beautifully styled PDF. And that's Timeline Genius, a smart software that will help take your wedding planning to the next level. Start your free trial today.
So is the implication of this kind of what you just said, that as a wedding professional in today's landscape, you need to be present on multiple platforms? You need to be on
Yeah.
TikTok, on Instagram. Like
On
what are
Google,
the what do you see? Because sometimes people will say, I mean, and rightly so, they're like, it's a little overwhelming to think about
definitely.
maintaining. And then you hear the conventional wisdom, well, if you're not going to be there and really be present, it's better to just not be there at all, because you don't want somebody to show up and see the tumbleweeds on your account. Can you tell people where they need to be, or does that draw the deeper question, who's your target customer and where is that person? Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think I mean I believe regardless of who your target customer is, like they're probably on multiple platforms no matter
Right,
what.
right,
Like it could be a luxury couple, it could be
right.
a backyard summer camp style vibe wedding couple.
Hmm.
They're on multiple platforms no matter what. And
Yeah,
so I do think that there was a time when I was like, you know what, be really really good at Instagram, but I don't think that that's enough anymore. And I hate to say or hesitate to say it because I understand the implications of like how stressful that feels as a business owner. But let's circle back for a moment to short form video and like, okay, you're going to decide I'm going to get good at short form video, and I know that I can put the short form video everywhere. So it's not that I'm like creating something unique for every single place. I created
right.
something once and I
And
put it in each
person,
place.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I
yeah.
think
And
that's the
that's
solution.
yeah, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Well, I think, just to kind of ask another sort of high level question here, Mark, and this is a slight tangent, but I think it's ultimately, the key of what I want to do here, which is to leave people feeling like, you know, I've got something here I can take back to my business to apply and level up. And obviously, we've been
Yes.
doing that this whole interview long, but I just want to kind of step back and ask the open ended question. In today's landscape, from an advertising standpoint, like, what are the things that you think the people listening to us right now need to be doing that we haven't maybe touched on? And or what are things that you're seeing other wedding pros do that are producing great results for them?
Hmm. I think the things that I would love for the audience to hear is that advertising isn't bad. It does work, but it does take a plan. And so if you were thinking, you know what, I'm at that point where I'm sort of like too busy to do more networking, too busy to do more referrals and organic, and I do want to step into that space of paying for advertising. Don't just throw $5 at it. Like, make a plan for what you want to say, where you want to be, and save up a little bit of budget for it. People always ask, like, how much money should I spend on advertising? And realistically, what we find in order to make sure that you're seen in multiple places multiple times is it takes about $1,000 a month across, and you can spread that across the different platforms. So it's not just like 1,000 for Google, 1,000. It's like $1,000 a month total across the platform, so that your ideal brides or couples see you. So that's answer to your second part to your question. I'm so sorry,
Well,
I
no,
forgot. I got
well,
very
first
excited
I
about.
just have to say I'm
Yeah,
channeling my inner wedding planner as I hear that,
yeah,
and I feel like people would have sticker shock at
a lot
thinking
of money.
of putting $1,000 of cold hard cash into a campaign. But I really appreciate your point because
Yeah,
you're just setting yourself up for failure. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you're like, oh, I'm going to drop $10, oh, that didn't work. Like, of course it
yep,
didn't work. Like, there was no intentionality behind it. You didn't have enough budget to give it a fair shake.
yep.
What do you say, Mark, to people who hear $1,000 a month and start thinking $12,000 a year and start thinking this is not for me?
Yeah, it's a lot of money for sure. Um, there used to be this old like bit of wisdom that's like your advertising and marketing budget should be 5% of your revenue, and that unfortunately is not true anymore because if you're starting your business and you want to advertise, you have $0, so it's like
Right,
100%
right,
of
right.
yeah. But the reality of it is that like if a bride doesn't see you again and again and again and several times in several places, she's not going to convert. She's not going to be the warm lead that you want her to be.
Yeah,
Advertising reaches a completely cold audience. They don't know you, they don't like you, they don't
yeah,
trust you.
yeah,
And so I feel that sticker shock. And
yeah,
a lot of times when folks come to us at the I Do Society, like, hey, I want to advertise, I've got $300. And I'm like, that is a substantial amount of money. I understand. But it's not the right fit because you
yeah,
will not convert a cold audience into warm leads who know you and love you and understand you if you don't spend enough to reach them.
totally.
So that sticker shock is real. And I'm so sorry that there's not a better answer to it.
It is what it is. I
It is
mean,
what
but
it is.
here's the flip side, Mark. There's a book I love called One Page Marketing Plan.
Mm,
I can't believe I can't. Alan Dibbs is his name, and what he's like. Here's the other question: how much money would you pay for a black box that if you put $1 in, $2 comes out? Like, how much money would you put into the black box if every time you put a dollar bill? Again,
yeah.
that's where my brain goes when like the conventional sort of 5% of your budget. Well, if you got that black box, you put as much money as it'll take. You
Yep.
insert as much money as you can get your hands on, right?
Yep.
And I think that's the allure. Correct me if I'm wrong. The allure and the motivation. And I want to come back to the question of how somebody can know when they're ready, because I don't want people jumping the gun and just
Sure.
starting to throw money at ads. But the allure and the reason why can make sense to spend $1,000 plus a month is
Yep.
if you can crack this code, then you get this reliable, predictable
Yeah.
machine that's bringing you new clientele. Is that the way you're
That
seeing it as
that
well?
is exactly it. Your money is doing the work for you. When you're growing a business, you have sweat equity or you have equity. Those are the two things to grow
Yeah,
with. And so
yeah.
you're trading money for time and you're trading money for work.
So to ask the question that I just teased, Mark, you said this. I think it's really important, and I want to go a little deeper. You're like, advertising's not necessarily for everybody.
Yep.
Um, and when I was talking about marketing, having the kind of eye opening, I'm like, word of mouth is still marketing. Like, you've got to have a way of getting in front of customers and getting them to your door.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're probably not going to be in business for long. But advertising, paid advertising, especially, like, this is not something that everybody needs to be doing at every stage in their wedding business's growth. When and how does a wedding professional know I've reached a point where I might benefit significantly from advertising?
Hmm. When you have no more time to network with people or really nurture those relationships, maybe your time is full.
Yeah.
Um, Another one, which may be surprising, as this is a surprising answer, is like when you can communicate what makes you totally unique, different from your competition, and tell people what they can get from you that they can't get anywhere else in a clear one sentence answer, then you're ready for advertising. If you
Mm,
cannot do that,
mm,
you are not
mm.
ready because your ads like have the wedding of your dreams. If you say that in your ad copy or on your website or anywhere, literally that couple has seen it 5,000 times and they're
Yeah.
not going to respond to it.
Yeah.
So, understanding what makes you totally unique is really, really important. Um, so you got what makes you unique. I also think that having a good amount of social proof is really important. What I mean by social proof could be a lot of different things, but like here's some examples. It's like 50 or more 5-star Google reviews. That bride who sees you on Instagram and doesn't know anything about you, she's scoping you out. She's not going to give you her personal information on your website until she knows more about you. She feels comfortable with you. So she's going to different resources, and Google may be one of them. And looking at your reviews on Google is really important. So 50 5-star reviews. I think if there's something wrong with your Google reviews and they're like the overall star rating is low, like don't advertise because they're gonna go there and see that and it's not going to convert. Other forms of social proof could be uh, community involvement or like you're connected to a venue in some sort of way, so like the venue refers you as well, and you can say that on your website, right? So they know about this great venue and then they see you there and they see your reviews and they see what makes you totally different and they're putting all these pieces together. That makes a really great recipe for converting a cold audience into a warm lead and makes you ready for advertising.
I love that, Mark. And I want to do a quick cutaway because I think, like, a quick aside for Timeline Genius, and I think it actually ties to, at least tangentially, what we're talking about here. Because I think of, like, you said having the time, right? Like, and you can, as a wedding professional, get jammed up. And I want people to know, just a quick aside here, if you're a wedding planner and you're doing your timelines and they're tedious, they're time consuming, maybe you're using Google Docs, Google Sheets, I want you to know there is a better way. Go to timelinegenius.com. Just watch the video on the homepage, because what I don't want people doing, Mark, is sitting there tediously moving items in a timeline 5 minutes ahead when they could do that in 1 second. I don't want them tediously copying items out for the photographer's timeline when there's a system that does that. When we've built an AI that generates the initial timeline, like, save that time so you can spend more time planning a good advertising campaign. So I just want to
I,
throw that out there,
I love
timelinegenius.com.
that too. I love that too. And like literally, how much cheaper is Timeline Genius than spending $1,000 in advertising? So if you're in that journey of trading your time for money, Timeline Genius is the first place to start. And then,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, that's the kind of, I won't wax too philosophical here, but it's really interesting. I think, for me and probably for you as well, a pretty big line item now in most businesses is like software, right? Like,
hmm
but the way I think about it is, these tools are actually now allowing us to more efficiently spend our money,
yep,
because they're doing a lot of the things that we as humans used to have to do. Like, it used to be that a planner had to spend an extra hour creating a customized timeline
yep,
for each person, and not just Timeline Genius, but whatever there's so many software tools out there. And I always tell people, please take advantage of that, because you need your brain to think about these higher level, more creative things. So one other question that I had as you were talking, Mark, is I'm constantly trying to be empathetic to our audience here. And our audience just like I do. Like,
yeah,
there's overwhelm, right? Like, there's so many things to do. There's so much pressure on getting things right. And am I, as the wedding professional, do I need to figure this out? right? Do I need to figure out how to do advertising, or maybe you can give me guidance and tell me when it's right for me to think about hiring a professional like yourself? Like, how do I kind of
Definitely.
approach that if I'm running a business and I'm ready to start advertising?
Yeah, because then like on top of the $1,000 a month you have, so you're paying someone
Exactly.
to, and
Exactly.
like I'll be honest with you, to do it right takes a lot of work and a lot of effort.
Yeah,
In my story, I really enjoyed learning it, and that's what got me to where I am. But that's not necessarily the case for everyone. And I would say that whether you hire someone or not, spending some time learning it can be really beneficial because it helps you
sure.
see just how the world works.
Sure.
When you're growing your business and you're comparing your business to other people, like you're starting to see how this process works. And so I would say, um, spend some time learning it if you can. If you can't, and you're super busy and you're like ready to advertise, and you're like then you got to hire someone to do it for you. And I would say too, and this is not a self promotion, this is not a pitch, but like when you think about hiring someone, do not hire a local business who doesn't understand the wedding industry. Something that
Sure.
I see all day long is like really great local people who know your town, who know your city really well, are like, oh yeah, I can do that. I've got it. I know Toledo, Ohio, because I live here, but they don't know how brides act
Absolutely.
online. And so find someone who understands the wedding industry.
That's so key. I think about, Emily, who who set up this interview for us. She manages our podcast. Well, she's a wedding planner.
Yep.
So, and she's a copywriter, and she just instantly like got it. Like she's able to do these write-ups in a way that speaks to our audience because we are in a unique industry. You can't just come in from like the software development industry and start speaking to, brides and planners and the people in our space.
Yeah,
Are
and
there
one
any
thing that makes
Yeah.
sorry, like one thing
No,
that
no,
makes our
please.
industry unique, in terms of like marketing and advertising is like, uh, it's like they don't they've never shopped for it before. Most people have never shopped for it before. Um, in it's there's so much emotion, right? It's not like buying a lamp or something for your dog or a couch. Couches are people make decisions, like furniture and things like that. But like it is totally unique in the way that people interact with the way that couples and brides interact with advertising versus how they interact for the wedding industry versus how they interact with advertising for anything else in their life is totally different. And so when you've got someone who knows advertising really well but doesn't know the wedding industry really well, they're going to do a great job figuring out the bidding strategies and algorithms and all the AI within the ad platforms, but they're not going to set it up correctly for couples and brides who are making this decision that they've never made before and going down a path they've never gone down before.
That makes a lot of sense. For those people, and I told you, Mark, this is a little bit of a digression, but I think it's just such a central thing. I remember I was learning some marketing, doing the One Funnel Away challenge that Russell Brunson has. And he's on this stage. We're watching a video of him on a stage speaking to a huge group of marketers, entrepreneurs, and he kind of goes off script and he's like, you guys want to know what the real secret to like building a business, the real secret to entrepreneurship is? And everybody, of course, is like, yeah, tell us.
Yeah, why
He's
not?
like, well, I was talking to this guy, Dan Sullivan, and he told me, he's like, when we're entrepreneurs, we have an idea and we start thinking, okay, now I got to go build a website. So I'm going to go figure out how to build a website. And then, oh, geez, I got to market. So I'm going to figure out, I got to do some search engine optimization. So I'm going to figure out how to do that. He's like, instead of trying to figure out how to do all of these things, figure out who can do them.
Mm, yeah,
And I'm like, that's
yeah,
really powerful. Now you can't take it. The tricky thing I find about like building a business is like you can't take any one maxim with no grains of salt because when you first start a business, you might not have the cash to hire somebody like yourself
you
or
don't have a
whatever. So we
choice.
need to
Yep,
thoughtfully
yep,
and mindfully apply these maxims on a situation by situation basis. But just to kind of throw that out there, I have fallen into the how trap rather than finding the
mm-hmm,
who so many
mm-hmm,
times. And our job as entrepreneurs is to build the business, not to necessarily do all the work. Like if you're a wedding planner, yeah, you are going to do the wedding planning, or if you're a photographer, you're going to do the photography. But ultimately, you have another job that you could almost just regard as like a separate position, which is running the business, So if they have the luxury of hiring you, great, or somebody in your position, great. But for those that do want to go at it themselves and get that at least that minimal education that you recommended, are
yep.
there any books that you would recommend for them to read?
Ooh. Oh my gosh, this is a super crazy confession, but I am not a book reader.
Oh no,
Like,
I have friends like that. Like
I
my wife is a podcast junkie, like, and some
yes,
people learn from like other people, like, so you don't do the audiobook thing, like that's
I
my own
don't.
little
I'm
kink.
like a super big business podcast guy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so I listen to like lots of business, like wedding industry
yes,
podcasts and lots of like
yes,
just general business podcasts. But like, I think that if someone were in the shoes of, I can't pay someone to do it, and you're applying who, not how, there are there are so many resources on YouTube videos. There are so many books, and so many pod. I would actually say go to YouTube. YouTube is probably the best way because then, like,
sure,
and also. Please know this is not self promotion. The Adu Society has a bunch of YouTube videos on how to create ad campaigns for your business where we're like showing you on the screen like where to click and things like that. And so like go to the who in on YouTube or other
yeah.
places, um, and don't get lost in the how, just like you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's funny, Mark. I think this is another change that we've seen in the world. I used to read just voraciously, starting from age 13. I did no reading up till age 13, and then I just
Yeah,
started reading like a madman, like books. I can't
that's
remember the
awesome.
last time I read a physical book. All I do now is
Yeah,
Audible, and that's just an audio medium. And, but the podcasts, I mean, the things that you can learn, because the Who's are on the podcast, right? Like
correct.
if you just, I mean, you could get a wedding industry education if you just started at the beginning of our podcast and just listened to every episode. You would learn so much about all facets, and there are
Yeah,
so many podcasts. But I remember a world where there were no podcasts, like, but there are
yep.
YouTube. I mean, what you can learn. I mean, it's just staggering the amount of information. So it's kind of like pick your.
I know. I envy those book readers. I like long for the days where I could sit by the fireplace and read a
Oh
book. Like it
man,
just isn't a reality of my life
no,
at the
it's not.
moment. And I'm great. I'm so grateful for the life that I have, the business I've built, but it just does not involve books, like physical books. It
Yeah, no, me
absolutely does
neither.
involve learning. So if anyone's
Yeah,
wondering, like this guy's a
yeah,
dum
of
dum,
course.
it absolutely involves learning, but just in different mediums.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm watching our time kind of fly as it always does, Mark. Um, is there anything else before I kind of get to the last question that I always ask of our guests? I just want to kind of ask an open-ended question. Is there anything else here that we really should have talked about in terms of the changing landscape? Things that people really need to be um, attuned to.
Last point to take or to talk
Okay.
through with advertising is that it will always change. And starting advertising, I feel like all I'm doing is like scaring people away from advertising. I'm not trying to do this. Not at all. Like advertising platforms continue to change and evolve as AI tools change and evolve in the platforms. Trends in the wedding industry change and evolve. That's not news to anyone in the wedding industry. We all know that. And so I guess like the last thing I want to make sure that we leave folks with when they advertise is it is not set it and forget it, and be mindful of what's happening in the ad platforms and be mindful of what's trending in terms of short form video or what brides or couples are responding to. And I know that's super high level because 6 months from now I could tell you what's changing then and it may not be true for what's changing right now, so I'm not going to go there. But like change is okay, and the sooner we embrace the fact that this is a complicated process. It does change often. Just kind of settle into that and like accept that, and you will succeed with advertising.
I love that, Mark. There is one question, you probably already know this because you've been on before, that I always ask of folks. And the question is, if you could give one piece of advice, and I know we've talked about a lot of information and advice, if you could give one piece of advice, and it doesn't even have to just be about advertising, but just based on all of your personal and professional experience, that would help our audience as much as possible as they do the hard work to pursue their dreams as business owners and wedding pros. Like,
Hmm.
what would that one piece of advice be?
Find your boundaries, set them, and stick to them. Make time for rest and play. I wish I could turn back the clock 15 years since I started doing this, and I wish I had spent more time resting and playing. Because when I do my best work on Monday morning between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. because I had the whole weekend to go play and go do things that I like to do. And I come in there and I'm like, all right, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this inbox of emails. I do my worst work on Friday at 4 p.m. when I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. And the boundaries that you set to give yourself that space to rest and play will make such a difference in the quality of your work, how fast you get it done, how you serve your couples. And one more note on boundaries for me, like I love my cell phone. What an amazing tool, but I hate my cell phone too. And I made the transition to Google Voice for my business, where I'm like, people can text me, they can call me, they can do whatever, they can reach me on, like through a phone number. That's actually a Google Voice number. It's not my personal number, and I can set my Google Voice to like, I don't want to be notified on Friday night at 11 p.m. So not about advertising, but man, I wish people had better boundaries.
Yeah, that's really powerful, Mark. And it's great for, the people listening who are by nature busy, stressed, overworked. I get reminded of that anytime I take a step back, or, what does it? This is like a messed up thing to say, Mark, but like if I get sick, like that's the one thing that will, like, I recently, went
Yeah.
down for the weekend. Um, and boy, did I come back strong because I didn't do anything. I just laid in bed all day on Saturday and Sunday. By the time I was better, like on Tuesday, I was like,
I'm
yeah, let's rock,
alive.
like,
Yeah.
but it really just like we're not aware of the accumulation of just like the
Yeah.
psychic dust and drag and gunk that like a good unplugging
Yeah.
will just clear out and you can come back with a fresh mind and really do productive stuff. So
So true.
that's really cool. If people, Mark, want to get in touch with you, if they're, ready to start advertising for their business, and there's no kickback or incentive here. When I gave you your props at the beginning of the interview, that
Yeah.
was just completely unsolicited and
Thank you so
sincere. And I
much.
mentioned that because I can say you come highly recommended. So if people are ready, I don't want to steer people in our audience wrong. I would certainly encourage them, if they're ready for advertising, to get in touch with you. How can people reach out and connect?
Easiest way, connect on social media, Instagram, TikTok, DM us. It's at the I Do Society, or our website. You can text us at theidosociety.com. There's a little click to text number there. Shoot me an email at mark@theidosociety.com, whatever your preference is, your communication preference. And I really, really appreciate those kind words at the beginning, Eddie. I truly do. I'm fascinated by advertising, but I'm even more fascinated when advertising helps a small business owner like achieve their goals and dreams. And not to like sound hippity dippity, but like it worked for me. And I'm not just a guy who's like, oh, you should give money Google. Google doesn't care that I exist. Meta doesn't care that I exist. But what really matters is I love helping people like figure out how to take that next step with advertising and do a great job with it, because it's scary, it's expensive, and it doesn't have to be. There's a plan.
That's beautiful, Mark. And I hate to even say anything after it, but I can't let it go. I feel like for me, at some point in life, I realized that it all comes down to finding a way to serve others. And that's why I've always known from day one that Timeline Genius would be successful, because people were like, I have this problem. Doing
Yeah.
timelines takes forever. Like, and what I hear and feel from you, as we're here, like we said on video, you can feel somebody's energy, you can get a sense for their mind and heart. I feel that genuine spirit of I'm here to serve. And that is a beautiful thing. And hopefully we're all doing that, because I think, planners, like all of us, like I hope we're all doing that. So what a beautiful place to leave it. On behalf of our audience, Mark, I just want to thank you for taking time to share your wisdom. And yeah, it's been a real treat as always.
Thank you so much, Eddie. I appreciate it a ton.